Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. It is a bonus episode here of Locked On NBA Daily. Anthony Davis has been traded to the Washington Wizards. We're going to break down what it means for him, what it means for the Mavericks, what it means for the Wizards, who are making moves here in the Eastern Conference. All coming up next.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However you're tuning in, on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Maybe this is your second listen today. Maybe it's your third listen, your fourth listen, if you're sticking here with the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Wes Goldberg here with Matt Moore. We're going live here on YouTube because we have breaking news, more trades that we have to talk about, and we just, Matt, couldn't wait until tomorrow afternoon to get to all of it. Let's start with the big one. We have a couple of different trades that we're going to talk about here, but the big one, the Mavericks agree to trade Anthony Davis to the Wizards in an 8-player blockbuster deal. It officially moves Dallas into the Cooper Flagg era, I guess, if we weren't already there. The Mavericks are going to send Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum to the Wizards. In return, they're getting Chris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley III, and 2 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks from Washington. Those first-round picks are the Thunder's 2026 selection that the Wizards previously owned, and a top 20 protected Warriors pick in 2030. So you look at the details of this deal, Matt, and, you know, Anthony Davis, we kind of know what's up there. He's injured right now. He goes to the Wizards. The Wizards previously traded for Trae Young. Now they have Trae Young and Anthony Davis with this young team. They trade 2 second-round picks to do it. A shocking trade, but who do you like this more for right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I like more for Dallas. So the picks that they got, one, don't fall for the trap of like, but Luka, it's over. It's done. Okay. Nico Harrison made his mistake. He left them with this bed, and now they have to lie in the bed that he made for them. Okay. So he's gone, and now you deal with the best that you can. And getting 3 picks, even if they're not good picks, getting 3 basically fake first rounders, because one of them's like the 30th pick this year, and you know the other pick's protected, and they're not good picks. But getting 3 picks in aggregate for Anthony Davis at his age, with his injury history, with an extension that he's going to be wanting this summer, all of those things added up together, it makes this a pretty good deal, I think, for the Mavericks to get out from under it. You pick up some players that I think actually could have rehab value. You get to try out things and be like, hey, Marvin Bagley's actually put up really good plus-minus numbers on the last 2 teams that he's been on. Now, they're terrible teams, but the on-off's been way better with him. Hey, is there anything... Could he have a good second chapter or third chapter of his career? You get to kind of like evaluate what you're going to do. And most importantly, you get off of having to worry about you have moved on from this era of the Luka disaster. You get to basically just like, it's a salve on the fans. They don't have to look at AD and be like, that guy could be Luka. You get to move on from that. And I think that that's really valuable.
Yeah, I'm with you. You can't really... The sunk cost fallacy with the Luka Doncic thing. You're going to see the graphics out there. You're going to be like, well, technically the Mavericks now traded Luka Doncic for Malachi Branham and blah, 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 blah. And like, no, don't do that. We're done. It's a different front office. They're dealing with like a whole different situation. I like Marvin Bagley like a lot. He was kind of one of the guys that I'm like, if I'm a good team, I'm kind of looking at him. The Mavericks aren't a good team, but now they get to take a flyer on him. But you're right. Look, I thought Nick Angstadt made a really good point on the breaking news episode of Locked On Mavericks, which I encourage people to listen to as they get into this in depth from the Mavericks perspective. But he said, look, when they were talking about potentially trading Anthony Davis, this was kind of what you were looking for. What did you want? You wanted expiring picks or expiring salaries and draft picks, right? Just if you were going to move on, that's the way to move on. You don't have the big salary on your books. You're able to clear the cap. The Mavericks were a very, very expensive team for not being a very good team. So the key thing here is getting off the money, both now and obviously long term, and then recouping some draft capital if you could. So when you squint, you're like, okay, that's what this is. And then you kind of look under the hood and you're like, well, these picks aren't very good, whatever. Like, are they going to buy out Chris Middleton, all this kind of stuff? But it's basically what you were looking. It's like a bad version of the stuff that you were looking for. But at this point, with Anthony Davis dealing with the injury, things that he's been dealing with, the best you could do is sort of the bad version of what you were looking for, if that makes sense, right? So if you're the Mavericks, you get off of Anthony Davis, and that's the key here, because now you are getting what you're gaining. You're not really gaining a whole lot in terms of valuable draft picks. You're not gaining a whole lot in terms of players back for Anthony Davis, but what you are gaining is flexibility. And when you're talking about building around a 19-year-old Cooper Flagg, what you need is flexibility, because what you're trying to do is extend the runway here so that you could build around Cooper Flagg the best way possible without the shackles of being a ridiculously expensive team for no reason.
The other thing that this allows you to do, it takes the pressure, much like I think with the Grizzlies trade of Jaren Jackson, it allows you to kind of take the pressure off of like, well, if we're going to keep him, then we need to try and be competitive. Okay, AD's gone. So guess what? Start making calls on Kyrie Irving right now. Call Minnesota right now and be like, you want a point guard? We got an all-star one, former, like call up the Lakers and be like, Najee Marshall. Okay. Right. PJ Washington, put him on the block. Start seeing what else you can get, because you might be able to get more from those guys than you got in the AD deal, but this frees you up to be able to do that. For the Wizards, where I kind of come down on this is, everyone, it's just really funny because there's somebody that was like, hey, the Wizards actually have some talent. Like, they're going to be pretty good here in a couple of years. And they've been obviously purposefully tanking. Now everybody's like, hey, they're going to be pretty good. And I'm like, this is not really what I wanted them to do. Trae Young, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, Anthony Davis, Alex Sarr. Good. That all fits. Like, that all works together. You got a center who can rebound next to Anthony Davis, so he doesn't have to play center. It's a big man that you now don't need. If Anthony Davis needs to miss time, doesn't matter, because you're the Wizards and you're one, rebuilding, and two, you got Alex Sarr and you got Keyshawn George who can play four. You got like Trey and Anthony Davis are a really good fit together in terms of the pick and roll game. AD has no dribble game basically at all. Has no jumper. Trey's gonna throw him lobs. Great, really good combo. The only thing here is that AD is $39 million expiring next year, player option 2028 for $42 million. And he is going to want a $60 million per year extension. And he's probably going to want the max starting this summer. And like, this is the test for Dawkins Dawkins and Winger in Washington. They have to be like, hey man, you have a really rough injury history, and we don't know where we're going to be in 2 years. We don't know who's going to develop. We don't know. So we'll give you a 2-year extension, 120, and that's going to have to be good enough. And if AD wants to be like, no, I will leave, then you let him walk, because you only gave up 3 bad draft picks, 1 real one, and Marvin Bagley, AJ Johnson. Like, it's just fine. So that to me is the key here. What you can't do is be like, we are in the Trae Young, Anthony Davis business. Can't do that. They have to be careful here.
So really quick on Kyrie Irving, my initial thought was the same thing, Matt, where I was like, yeah, now you start taking calls on Kyrie, and maybe you do, right, just to see what happens. I'm not convinced that the Mavericks aren't going to say, you know what, we kind of want to keep Kyrie around, if only just because his value is pretty low right now, but also they don't have a point guard on the roster. Cooper Flagg has obviously been running the offense, but you bring Kyrie back, and I think they might be interested in seeing what that looks like until they can rebuild Kyrie's value a little bit more. But the Wizards part of this too. I look at the starting 5, and I'm a sucker, Matt. I'm falling in love with it, man. I kind of love it. Trae Young, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, who I really like, Alex Sarr, Anthony Davis. You still have Bilal Coulibaly and Bub Carrington coming off the bench. What I like about this is this Wizards roster, even before the Trae Young trade, was sort of this ambiguous just amalgamation of limbs and talent just kind of floating in orbit. And the Trae Young trade and then the Anthony Davis trade provides gravity for these young guys, gives them something to cling to in terms of an identity and a scheme and a system, and just like playing adult basketball is provided, obviously, that Trae Young and Anthony Davis could stay on the court long enough to provide that gravity and that sort of foundational point for them. It seems like a weird trade, I think, on its face, but I'm buying what the Wizards are doing, if only because they've been consistent in what this is, right? the Trae Young thing, I think this was a lot of a value play, obviously, but they get Trae Young, and they're talking about, hey, Trae Young can get our young guys in position to succeed. He's the point guard that they sorely lack. And this Anthony Davis thing is very similar of that, but on the defensive end, right? Hey, Anthony Davis is going to be the backbone of our defense. All these other guys can just kind of do what they're going to do defensively. There's already reports out there that they don't view Alex Sarr as a full-time center long term. And so, you're able to develop him in the right spot where he ought to be playing, or at least you believe he ought to be playing. I'm buying that as an idea. While these guys are still cheap, you can afford to overpay guys like Trae Young and Anthony Davis, although I agree with you. I do think you need to at least negotiate with these guys, but you can afford to overpay them a little bit while these guys are on their rookie contracts and learning to be NBA players. I quite like that, if I'm being honest, for the Wizards. I like the idea of, hey, we don't just got to be dog bleep for years and just hope to get lucky. No, let's put adults in the room and let's teach these guys how to play basketball. I'm into teaching. I'm into coaching. I'm into development.
I think my problem is just Trae's high usage, AD's high usage.
Yeah.
Like every possession is going to be dribble, AD pick for Trae Young, and then a lob or a kick. I don't want Trae Johnson put into that role. I don't want Darren Peterson put into a spot up role. I don't want Keyshawn George being you just defend, man, and you let us worry about the offense. Like, he's really good. I don't want Alex Sarr being like, you just do the dirty work so that AD doesn't have to guard anybody big because he only likes dominating small ball lineups. I don't like that. The health injuries are one thing. Again, all of this is fine if it's next year and a 2-year extension. You do 3 years of Anthony Davis while you let the core marinate, and then you move on. That works. But if they sign him to a 5-year, $300 million extension, I'm going to be pretty annoyed that Washington's trying to cut corners, because the problem is the peak of this team is still probably, let's assume that the East won't be this bad every year with Halliburton and Tatum back. The peak for this team is probably like, oh, hey, they're the 5th seed and they won a playoff series. And then they probably start to get worse as AD gets older and or Trae. And so that's like a ceiling play there. This is not a championship combination. It's just not. Like, Trae and AD is just not. So be reasonable with how you approach this. And it's great. If you overcommit, you're going to wind up having dead money you can't move while you've got all these young guys, and that's going to cost you.
Absolutely. One last point on this before we move on. I do like the fact that the Wizards didn't give up any of their own picks. That was really good business. They gave up a heavily protected Warriors pick and then another pick that's not going to be very good this summer too for Anthony Davis. So they're not risking their own stuff. There's no reason for them, to put their own picks in this, and I'm glad they didn't. We have a few more trades to get to, including the Oklahoma City Thunder adding a shooter that they desperately needed.
That happened just now. We just had some happen while we were having a conversation. I can tell you about it when we come back.
There we go. We'll do it when we come back. Today's bonus episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by FanDuel. It's last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, and the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everybody's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Matt, do you want to start with the new trades, or should we talk about McCain to OKC?
Oh, we just go through these really quickly because they're not major moves. The Cavaliers have moved Lonzo Ball to the Utah Jazz. Sounds like it's a pure cap dump. That gets the Cavaliers within spitting distance of being under the second apron. So we can all, if they don't do anything with that flexibility, we can all golf clap as they save some money. Hooray for Dan Gilbert. If they actually do something, then that's great. Outside of trading for James Harden, obviously. Also, the Utah Jazz, after trading for Lonzo Ball, and then they're going to buy him out, they are trading Jock Landale, who they got from Memphis for Jaren Jackson, to the Atlanta Hawks. So Lonzo in, going to be waived. Landale out to the Hawks. That's the the two minor moves that came in while we were talking, as it sounds like, I mean, what I'm really just interested in is I want to know, are the Cavs just like, we want to get James Harden and then get under the second apron and we're done? Or are they like, we're trying to get under the second apron because we want to do something else? Because that would be a lot more interesting. If they do Harden and now all of a sudden I'm like, okay. But that's what they got to do here.
Harden and Giannis with Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Could be interesting. Landell and Atlanta, they need some big men reinforcements. They've been kind of beat up at that position. I don't mind it. The Philadelphia 76ers are trading Jared McCain to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're getting a 2026 Rockets pick, as well as 3 second-round picks in return. McCain was sort of on the outs in Philadelphia. There was injuries. He was playing in the G League for a little bit because of those injuries as he came back. But obviously, Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe are the future there in Philadelphia. So McCain felt like a little bit like the odd man out. So they kind of reset the clock on that with a new first-round pick who probably won't be as good as McCain, but you start fresh and maybe with a position of need. But the real story here, I think, is OKC, who they get a guy who I'm not sure a lot of people thought was on the market. I don't know if you've heard something different, Matt, but when I saw this, I was pretty surprised. At the same time, I was very impressed because I think this is good business for the Thunder, who get a guy who's not expensive, obviously still on this rookie scale contract. The clock is not necessarily ticking on McCain's next deal. And, you look at the Thunder's losses this year, a lot of it, not only because of injuries, but it's been a lack of shooting. And McCain is a knockdown shooter when he's healthy. If he could stay right, I like this a lot for the Thunder.
This is one of those moves where everyone is like, wow, Sam Presti did it again. And if you talk to Sam Presti would probably be like, I mean, yeah, we like him. Like, this isn't some huge move. It's just he wasn't getting playing time and we had an opportunity. Sixers are still exploring other trades according to multiple reports, so we'll see what else they do before the deadline. They are always pretty busy here. They're trying to get under the tax, which this does. So it's like the minimum work is done. They've gotten under the tax. That's like, all right, ownership can be happy. Now they can try and do other moves to try and actually improve the team. For the Thunder, look, you've got 700 million picks. Why not take a flyer on a guy who looked this good? But I am a little bit like, guys, he played awesome for a month last year. And then he's been in the G League this year. And that's all we know of Jared McCain. That's all we know, right? He could be awesome. He could be fine. He could be middle ground. The Oklahoma City Blues G League title chances way up here with this move. With Shea being out multiple weeks, this is a nice short-term thing to be like, hey, we got an opportunity to get a look at him. He's going to miss some time with an abdominal strain. AJ Mitchell's listed as questionable tonight, so he'll probably start. Let's get a look at Jared McCain and see what we like about him, because we have to start evaluating. The other thing I think is that we do kind of miss here is OKC signed their big three. They're set. Well, Cason Wallace is going to get the bag. That guy he is the best defender on OKC. Forget Alex Caruso. It's Cason Wallace. And that guy lit up the Nuggets with his perimeter shooting, even though he's had bad shooting year. So you're going to need to keep cycling these kind of guys in. So taking a chance on McCain makes a lot of sense. You're right that it's just good business. I'm not going to I don't blame the Sixers front office for the fact that their ownership wants to get under the tax. That's fine, right? If the Sixers don't do anything and Joel Embiid is grumbling, that's not good. But the minimum here was get under the tax. I also have a hard time with they have Maxey and they have Grimes and they have Edge. They have a lot of perimeter guys. There's only so many minutes. Give McCain an opportunity to go somewhere where he can play. I think this makes sense for all sides. It is interesting to me that Morey and Presti continue to be two guys who, despite their teams having been rivals for as long as they have, those two guys continue to do business pretty consistently. It shows you when you have trust with somebody, you can get these deals done easier.
Yeah, to me, this is a win-win trade because, like you said, the 76ers didn't have a use for McCain. They recouped the asset that otherwise was McCain, right? Now they have a first-round pick that they're going to have to use this summer. You get the 3 second-round picks. Second-round picks grease the wheels on a lot of trades these days. That stuff isn't nothing. So we'll see. I like the deal. You're right. I'm not going to make too big of a deal about McCain and OKC until we see it, but he's a 38% career three-point shooter on more than 250 attempts for his career if he could stay healthy. There was just a lot on Isaiah Joe to basically make every three-point attempt that he took this season, and getting McCain alleviates some of that a little bit. It's just insurance. I wouldn't mind seeing OKC doing something else also, right? To kind of shore up some of the roster here as well. Maybe add another big man or something like that as they make this run here. Next deal here. We got a 3-way trade between the Clippers, the Nets, and the Raptors. It's a multi-team trade where the headline here, Chris Paul to Toronto. The Raptors are not expected to keep Chris Paul, and they could still discuss moving him before the 3 p.m. deadline on Thursday. Buyout, obviously, a possibility there as well. Ochai Agbaji goes from Toronto, as well as a second-round pick to the Nets. So, am I missing part of this trade?
Don't think so.
No, I think that's it. So.
Clippers did Chris Paul right after doing him dirty. The Nets, I think, did a really good job here. They get Agbaji, who's a really good defender. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the offense is a problem, but you've got the opportunity to rehab him. Like, that's the exact type of player that Brooklyn needs to add.
And Nets are just in here for cap space. Okay, so this is and
they pick up some seconds. That's it.
And they pick up a second.
And then the Raptors move off of Agbaji, who they've been trying to like. This is the Raptors have been trying to find Agbaji somewhere to go. Couldn't do it. Clippers called. Will you take Chris Paul? They said, hang on, let's call the Nets. Call the Nets back. Will you take Agbaji? Yes. Okay. And then we'll waive Chris Paul. Now, I do think an interesting question is like, this isn't a wind horse. Like, why did they do that? Right. Like the Raptors might just be setting salary here. That's what a lot of these teams are doing. But I do think it's just kind of interesting that Toronto, who is in a position to actually be making moves, because it was reported today by The Athletic that the Domantas Sabonis talks have stalled. Walking out of the deadline and being like, what did you do at the deadline? We lost Agbaji.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And we gave up some seconds. Cool. I am kind of curious about that. So I wonder if the Raptors are still going to be, I would expect them to, like, I know they will be active in the next 24 hours. Or we are less than that, 22 hours before the deadline. So there's going to be, I think, I am just kind of curious about this from a Raptors perspective, because this feels like a lot of this is let's get our business done, like the Sixers. Let's get our money business done, and then we can try and actually make our team better. And I wonder what they're going to do there.
And where Chris Paul ultimately ends up, because it does feel like we're looking at a potential buyout guy here.
And Lonzo Ball.
So we have a couple of point guards that could potentially be free agents. We also have a couple of point guards on the move. Last deal that we'll talk about, unless something breaks again. I have some Twitter alerts, so maybe something did break. I don't know. The Bulls send Kobe White and Mike Conley, who they had, if people weren't keeping track of all this trade deadline whirlwind stuff. The Bulls are sending Kobe White and Mike Conley to Charlotte in exchange for Colin Sexton, Ousmane Dieng, and 3 second-round picks. If you're the Hornets part of this, Sexton out, Kobe White in. Makes some sense from a contract perspective, and Kobe White, good three-point shooter, if that's really what they're doubling down on. I like it as a talent play for Charlotte. Also, Ousmane Dieng, I like that as a talent play for Charlotte. Just keep getting young guys, keep getting athletes. I don't mind it at all. And then you get the second-round picks, which are always fun. And the Bulls get Colin Sexton. So they take 2 guards that they had in White and Conley. They replace them with 1 guard in Sexton. We'll see if Sexton gets flipped again here. We'll see. But really, I think, you're getting out of the Kobe White business if you're Chicago. Mike Conley sounds like he's getting ready here for a buyout, and sounds like a return to Minnesota isn't out of the picture because of a weird rule in the CBA where now that he was traded a second time, he can get waived and go back to Minnesota.
Yep. Yeah. It's great they put this rule in. You can't trade a guy, have him waived, and then re-sign him, because they used to do that all the time. But if you trade him again, it's totally fine. So
Conley can't get, if he's waived, he can't go to the Bulls.
Like, has he left? Has he left his house, or did Tim Conley just tell him like, "Hey, Mike, I just want to let you know we're trading you,
but don't worry.
Pack.
Don't pack.
Just stay right where you are. Binge watch something. Turn off your phone.
Yep.
And binge watch something. Don't worry about it.
A little bit of DoorDash. That's all you need.
We'll talk to you here in a little bit. And the reason I think that that's so interesting with all of this is, so he was, I gotta make sure I'm right on this. He was traded to the Bulls, right? And then the Bulls traded him to Charlotte. Minnesota had reportedly been talking to them about Kobe White forever. Like, that had been the thing, was like Kobe White was the fallback plan on Giannis. Was the Bulls wanted a point guard, and they were going to get Kobe White. I wonder if that, like, those conversations led into this, where the Wolves were like, "Hey, we want to do this deal. Can you give us assurances you're going to trade Mike again, because we want to re-sign him?" I want to know if that was prearranged for Chicago being like, yeah, we'll flip him again. Don't worry. Like we will, no matter what it takes, we will make sure that he gets rerouted. I don't love this for Charlotte. I'm one of the few people that don't. I'd rather have Colin Sexton. Kobe's like, he's inconsistent and he's real ball dominant, and Colin Sexton shooting 39% from 3 and is a bigger dude. That's why they call him Young Bull. And now the Young Bull is on the Bulls, which is funny. It's just like it's not a huge downgrade. It's probably a little bit of an upgrade on upside. I just am not like, oh man, I am kind of like, the Jang pickup was good. That was good business, but I am largely unmoved by swapping out Sexton for Kobe White.
I'm kind of with you. I really liked Sexton for this team. I understand that Kobe White fits more of what they're trying to do, but I like the idea that Sexton was different than all these other guys, right? That he was the downhill kind of guy to what is otherwise, I think it's fair to say, kind of a finesse offense here, right? I don't mean that to say soft. I just mean more of a skill-based offense. Sexton was just like, I don't need much skill. I'm just going to barrel my way to the basket and figure it out later. And I thought that was a needed element for their offense a lot of times. Kobe White's not really that, but you know what? Maybe there's another move here that. Go ahead.
No, nothing happening right now that I've seen. I will say this. So let's go down. This is always where the dominoes, I think, get really funny. All right. So Atlanta was talking to Dallas pretty consistently. They talked to them about AD and they couldn't agree on anything. The Mavericks kept asking for, the Pelicans pick, and the Hawks kept laughing at them. Then they were like, okay, maybe not the AD deal, but what about Daniel Gafford? And Stein had reported pretty consistently on talks between those two. With the Hawks now pivoting and taking Landale off of the Jazz, they basically said like, all right, let's not give up anything of value. Let's just go get the discount version. Let's go get the Dr. Thunder version of Daniel Gafford, which is a really funny thing to say, but they got the Dr. Thunder version of Daniel Gafford and Jock Landale. So now it becomes about Gafford, and Gafford now, I think probably there's a higher probability of him winding up in Indiana, because Indiana's looking for a center. And the question is, does this become a three-way possibility because they're looking to move Benedict Mathurin? And that's like the likely move there. So I think finding out who's going to actually take on Mathurin and whether those assets are the ones that go back to Dallas will be really interesting if Gafford gets involved in that deal. Because swapping out Mathurin for Gafford is like you're going to have to get something else back if you're Indiana. You can't swap out a player of Matherin's caliber. But if you get back like Mathurin, if you get back like a Daniel Gafford in a first, no, okay, good. That's good work. You picked up a starting center who's not Quentin Jackson, and you pick up a first. That's good business for Benedict Mathurin if they can pull it off.
Even if it's one of these first that you got from the Wizards, right? Like that top 20 protected one from Golden State. I think that's probably in the realm of a fair deal. Like we're probably getting pretty close there. The two names, obviously, that have yet to move, at least at the time of us going live right now here on YouTube, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ja Morant. Plenty of more dominoes here to potentially fall between now and the 3 p.m. trade deadline on Thursday, but that'll do it for us here on our live stream reacting to the Anthony Davis trade. A bunch more stuff happening. We'll be back, as a reminder, live 1 p.m. here on the Locked On NBA channel on YouTube. We're going to do an hour-long episode live before the trade deadline on a Thursday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. Me, Matt, and Hayes. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned here on Locked On NBA Daily. We'll see you back here tomorrow.